Hey everyone, this is Feynman Education, and today we're going to go through the 2019 May iGCSE Higher Tier Mathematics A paper. This is paper 1, and stay in tune for paper 2. Don't forget that you are given the formula sheet that has a lot of the key formulas, whether it's your trigonometry formulas, your volume, your area, the quadratic equation, and so on, so you don't have to memorize all of these. When it says show that, you have to prove it. You can't just put it into your calculator and say that is the reason. So the first thing we're going to do is change these fractions into top-heavy fractions. And remember, to do that, we times the 4 by the 3 and add the 2. So we're going to get 14 over 3 divided by we do the same thing, 1 times 9 and add the 1, 10 over 9. When we are dividing fractions, we turn it into a multiply and flip the second fraction. And now we can quite easily do these. However, we can cancel some of them out. So the 3 will cancel with the 9. And I can divide the 10 and the 14 both by 2. So what I would get is, if we multiply the fractions, we do the numerator times the numerator to give us 21, and the denominator times the denominator to give us 5. And if I convert this, well, 5 can go into 21 4 times, and I have 1/5 remaining. For this graph, it says Jelena left her home at 10 o'clock to cycle to a park. On her way to the park, she stopped at a friend's house and continued her journey to the park. Here is a distance time graph. On her journey, did Janila cycle faster before or after she stopped at her friend's house? Now, when we're looking at a distance time graph, you have to remember the gradient would be your speed. So the steeper the gradient, the quicker she is going. And if we were to look at it from this, well, pick certain points. Has she gone quicker? So remember, the gradient for this would be the rise, which would be 15 divided by your run. So the gradient here is going to be 15 over 1, which is 15. And here it'll be from 11:15 to 12, which is 0.75. And our rise here is going to be 15 to 24, which is 9 over 0.75. And this would give us 12. So she cycled quicker before, as the gradient is steeper. So remember, you have to give a reason for your answer. She stayed at the park for 45 minutes. She then cycled without stopping at a constant speed of 16 kilometers an hour. Show this information. So she is 24 kilometers away. What we can remember is speed equals distance over time. So if we want to find the time, that's going to equal distance over speed. So it's going to be 24 kilometers divided by the speed, which is 16, which is going to take her 1.5 hours. So what we're going to say is she stayed at the park for 45 minutes. So 45 minutes from here would be till here. And then it's going to take her 1.5 hours. So that would be 15, 30, 45, 1 hour, 1.5 hours. And what you want to do is you want to draw a far better straight line than mine. Use your ruler and you want to get it down to there. Perfect. Work out her average cycling speed in kilometers per hour for her to complete the whole journey to the park and back. So she has cycled, her total distance would be 24 kilometers to the park, 24 kilometers back from the park, which is 48 kilometers. And the total time, well, if she left at 10 a.m. and she's back at 2:15, that is going to be a time of 4 hours and 15 minutes, which is 4.25 hours. So the average speed would be 48 over 4.25, which would give us 11.3 kilometers per hour. Remember, to one decimal place. We simplify the indices. When we divide, we would just minus the indices. And when we have this, we would times the indices. And for this one, if we're going to expand and simplify, we do the FOIL method, which would give us x squared minus 2x plus 9x minus 18. And we want to collect our like terms, which would give us x squared plus 7x minus 18. If we want to factorize, we want to take out the biggest numbers that we can, which would be 4, the biggest values of c, which would be c, and the p squared. And we'd be left with 4c cubed plus 5p. What we want to do here is sub in the values. So when x equals minus 2, I'm going to get minus 2 squared minus 3 times minus 2 minus 1, which would give me 4 plus 6, which is 10, and 9. We do the same thing for the others. So we get minus 1 squared minus 3 times minus 1 minus 1, which would give us 1 plus 3 is 4, which would give us 3. If we put 1 into this, we're going to get 1 minus 3 minus 1, which gives us minus 3. If we put 3 into this, we're going to get 9 minus 9 minus 1, which gives us minus 1. And we want to then plot this as accurately as possible. So we're going to put a mark there. We're going to put a mark there. A mark there. At minus 1, it gets down to minus 3. It goes to there, there, and there. And now what you want to do is draw a smooth curve that goes straight through all of these points. It doesn't have to be, exactly at the right minimum point. However, it does have to be a smooth curve that goes exactly through this, so your curve will have to be better than mine. Becky has a 6-sided dice, and when it's thrown, it will land on each number. She's going to throw the dice 200 times. Work out the estimate for the number it will land on an even number. Well, we need to find out the total probability. So remember, the total probability would equal 1. So if I add all of these up, I can collect my like terms, which would give me 2x, 4x, 7x, plus another x is 8x, plus, if I add the numbers, I get 0.18 plus 0.26 is 0.44 would equal 1. And now what I can do is I can take this to the other side, so I get 8x is equal to 0.56, so x is equal to 0.07, which means I can fill these in. If this is 2x, this would be 0.14, 0.14, 0.21, 0.07. Now, the number of times that it lands on an even number. So what's the probability it lands on an even number? Well, that's going to be 0.18 plus 0.21 plus 0.07, which would give us 0.46. Now, if she throws it 200 times, we need to multiply this by 200, which would give us 92 times. The diagram shows a solid cuboid made from wood. The wood has a density of this. Work out the mass. So remember, density equals mass divided by volume. So if I want to work out the mass, I just need to do my density times my volume. My density is 0.7, and my volume would be 12 times 8 times 5, which would give me 336 grams. Right, this is an ordinary number, so this just means I'm going to move my decimal place 6 times to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put it here and fill in my gaps with zeros. So my answer would be 57000000. Write this in standard form. So because I have to move it to the right, it's going to be negative. And I had to move it 3 times. It would be 4 times 10 to the power of minus 3. With this, you can do it on your calculator. But what you can also do is write each number out. So this would be 20,000 plus 300,000, all divided by 0.064, and now you can put it in your calculator as 320,000 divided by 0.064, which would give you 5 million. Now you can also write that as 5 times 10 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On January 1st, 2016, Lee bought a boat for $170,000. The value of the boat depreciates. That means it loses value by 8% per year. Work out the value of the boat by January 2019. Well, that's been 3 years. And if it's losing value, we do 170,000 times by 1 minus the rate of interest, 8 over 100 to the power of 3, which is the same as 170,000 times 0.92 to the power of 3, which would give us 132,376.96. It wants it to the nearest dollar, 132,377. Pretty bad investment, if you ask me. The diagram shows the shape made from a right angle triangle and a semicircle. AC is the diameter, BA equals BC, angle ABC is 90. Work out the area of the shape. Well, very quickly, we know that AC is the hypotenuse of that triangle. So to work that out, we say AC squared is equal to AB squared plus BC squared, which would be 6 squared plus 6 squared, which would give us 72. So AC would equal the square root of 72. Now we have two shapes. Remember, that's the diameter. So the area would equal pi times root 72 over 2 pi r squared, all divided by 2 because it's only a semicircle. And the right angle triangle, remember, we can just do a half times base times height, which would give us 18. And then we can add those two values together. So we can do pi times root 72 over 2 squared divided by 2 plus 18, which would give us 46.3 to 1 decimal place. Question 10. Write 8a as a product of powers of its prime factors. So remember, 8a would be 8 times 2 to the power of n times 3 times 5 to the power of m. Now 8 is the same as 2 cubed times 2 to the power of n times 3 times 5 to the power of m. But if these are the same and I multiply them, I just add the indices. And I would leave it like this. C is equal to B minus A. A is 6, correct to the nearest integer. 15, correct to the nearest 5. Work out the upper bound. So for the upper bound, I want B to be as big as possible. And I want A to be as small as possible. So if it's 15 to the nearest 5, it can be 17.5 minus 6 to the nearest integers. We want that to be as small as possible, be 5.5, which would give us 12. Factorize 2x squared minus 7x plus 6. So the first thing we're going to do is, because we have it as ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, or we can assume equals 0, we're going to do a times c, which is 2 times 6, which is 12. We want to find all the factors of 12. 1, 12, minus 1, minus 12, 2, 6, minus 2, minus 6, 3, 4, minus 3, minus 4. And we want them to add together to give us minus 7, which would be these. And we're going to split up the x term into minus 3x minus 4x plus 6. The next step is crucial. We're going to separate the first two terms and the last two terms and see how we can factorize them. So I can take out an x from the first two, and I can take out minus 2 from these, and I get 2x minus 3. And because I have the same bracket, that becomes one of my brackets, and the next bracket would be the remaining terms. In order to solve this, well, we need to get rid of the 3. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply that to the other side. And we have to multiply all the terms. And then we're going to collect our like terms. So I'm going to take the 6m on that side and the 9 on this side, which gives me 10m is equal to 21 minus 9, which is 12. Then I can divide it by 10, which would give me m is equal to 1.2. And if I want to write this in the form of y to the power of b, well, the fourth root of y is y to the power of a quarter divided by y to the power of 1. If I am dividing, I do the power of the numerator minus the denominator. And a quarter minus 1 would be y to the power of minus 3/4. In the group C, there are 6 girls and 8 boys. In the group D, there are 3 girls and 7 boys. The group is made at random from 1 child from C, 1 child from D. Complete the probability. So 6 out of 14 are girls and 8 out of 14 are boys. And in this group, it's 3 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Now, we can simplify the first ones. We can divide them all by 2, so we get 3 out of 7 and 4 out of 7, just to make our life easier. So we pick 1 child from C and 1 child from D. So the probability that there are 2 boys, we have to go down the route of boy and then boy. So we have to times them. So we get 4 out of 7 times 7 out of 10, which would give us 28 out of 70, and we can divide both of these by 7, which would give us 4 out of 10, and we can divide them both by 2, which would give us 2 out of 5. After the first team has been picked, the second team is picked. 1 child is picked at random from the children left in group C, and 1 child is picked from the children left in group D. Work out the probability that there are 2 boys in each of these. So if we've already picked a boy, we only have 3 boys left and 6 children. So what we would have for group C is 3 boys left, and there'd be a total of 6 children. And for group D, there'd be 6 boys left and a total of 9 children. So we'd get 18 out of 54, and if we get 18 out of 54, we would get 1/3. So that would be the probability that there are 2 boys in the second team. So if we have the probability that there was 2 boys in the first team, this would be the probability that there are 2 boys in the second team. Now, in order to do this, we would have to do the chances of that happening, which would be 2/5 times 1/3, which would be 2 out of 15 for boys in both of the teams. Over here, x is greater than any number at 12, and x is between 7 and 16 for part B. List the numbers that are in A intersection B. That means that they are in both. So it would be 13, 14, and 15. C is such that C is a subset of A, and the number of things in C, there are 3 numbers. Given that all of them are even. Oh, sorry, this one says that x is less than. Sorry. So it would be 8 and 10. Nope. Sorry, once again, I've misread the question. Please do not do that. It would be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There we go. 3rd time's a charm. So it says C is even numbers that are in A. So list the members of one possible set. So it could be 2, 4, and 6. And those could be the only numbers. Use algebra to show the recurring decimal. So we're going to say x equals 0.25454454 and so on. And then I'm going to times it by 10. So I'm going to get 10x is equal to 2.54545454 and so on. And now I want it to repeat again. So I'm going to get 1000x would equal to 254.545454454. And now what I can do is 1000x minus 10x. So 990x would equal 254 minus 2. But what will happen is all of these will cancel with all of these. And I'd be left with 252. So x would equal 252 divided by 990, which we can keep simplifying to give us 126 over 495, and that will keep simplifying down until you get 14 over 55. Here are the first 5 terms of an arithmetic sequence. Find the sum of the first 100. So remember, this is where it's absolutely crucial. You are given this formula. So the sum to the first 100 is 100 over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1d, which would be 50 times 2 times the first term plus 100 minus 1, and the difference for each is 3, which would give us 50 times 14 plus 99 times 3. So if we work out using BIDMAS, the first one we get 99 times 3 plus 14 times 50. Be 15,550. Okay, always remember that you are given this formula. You have two similar vases. They have a height of 24 and a height of 36. Vase A has a surface area of 960. So what we need to do is find out the scale factor to which it has been enlarged. So we can say A to B would be 24 to 36. If I was to make this 1, I would get my scale factors being 36 divided by 24, which is 1.5. Remember, for area, you have to do the area of A times by the scale factor squared, which would give us 960 times 1.5 squared, which would give us 2,160 centimeters squared. Volume B has a volume V. Find an expression in terms of V for a volume of A. So remember, volume of A would equal, the volume of A times by the scale factor cubed would equal V. So the volume of A would equal V over 1.5 cubed. And 1.5 cubed would give us 3.375. So it'd be V over 3.375. Otherwise, you can write this as 3 over 2 cubed would give you 27 over 8. So you can write this as 8V over 27. the diagram shows PQR, calculate the length of PR. So the length PR would be this length here. And what we want to do is we want to use the cosine rule, which again you are given. So if I call this length x, we're going to say x squared is equal to 26.3 squared plus 17.8 squared minus 2 times 26.3 times 17.8 cos 36. And if you put this into your calculator, you would get, just typing it in, cos 36, and that would give you x would equal 251.06 on, x squared. So x would equal the square root of that, which would give you 15.8 to 3 significant figures. The table gives you some heights of some trees. So with these, you have to be very careful if it gives you a frequency, density, and frequency. So you have to remember the differences between these. Now, it will quite often ask you to draw a graph, and you have to do that. So remember, with frequency density, you are looking at the area. So the area must equal the frequency. So if we were to look at this, we want our area, which, well, here we'd have 0 to 20. And how high are we going to go to get a frequency of 15? So when we look at this, we're going to go all the way up to, we do 15 divided by 20, which gives us 0.75. So we're going to go 0.75, which would be here. And we're going to draw a line across like this and come down. And again, this would all be shaded. And you do the same thing. So here we are now going 15 to on the base, and we do 48 divided by 15, which is 3.2. So we want to go all the way up to 3.2, and then we would come down. And again, you must use your rulers. I have not, and you want it to be as accurate as possible. Next one, we only have to go 5. So we need to do 21 divided by 5, which is 4.2. So that's all the way up here. And we come all the way down here, like this. And the next one is going to be 10, and we want to go 106. So we're going to go 16 divided by 10, which is 1.6, which would be here. So the way that we do this is we do the class width, and we do the frequency divided by the class width would equal our frequency density. So it wants us for question 20 to work out the angle BCD, which would be this angle here. Now, if we were to do this for question 20, we can start by thinking about the circle theorems. So we know ABD or ACD would equal 71. So if I make the center of a circle somewhere here, ABD, this angle would be 71 from the alternate segment theorem. And if we have that, well then I know ADB would also equal 71 as it's an isosceles triangle. And if that is the case, we know that this angle here would be 180 minus 71 minus 71, which would be 38. And to work out the opposite sides in a cyclic quadrilateral, so the angle BCD would be 180 minus 38, which is 142. A solid is made from a hemisphere and a cylinder. The plane face of the hemisphere coincides with the upper plane face of the cylinder. The hemisphere and the cylinder have the same radius. The ratio of the radius of the cylinder to the height of the cylinder is 1 to 3. So if this is R, this height here would be 3R. Given that the solid has a volume of this amount, work out the height of the solid. Well, we know that the volume of a cylinder is going to be pi r squared h. And if we go all the way up to the formula sheet, you'll see the volume of a sphere would be 4/3 pi r cubed. But what we need to do is we only want half of it, so we times it by a half. Now this would be pi r squared times 3h, which would give us, sorry, not 3h, 3r, which would give us 3 pi r cubed, and this one would give us 4/6 pi r cubed. And what we can do is we can add these two together. So if we were to do 4 divided by 6 plus 3, we would get 3 2/3, or if we were to convert that, so we can get 3 2/3 pi r cubed, which would be the same as 11/3 pi r cubed, would equal 792 pi. So we can see that the pi's can cancel out, and I can do 792 divided by 11/3, which would give me r cubed is equal to 216, and then I can cube root that answer to give me r is equal to 6. Now it's worth saying, what is the height? Remember, the height is 3 times r, so the height would be 18. The graph shows, the graph of y equals sine x is shown on the grid. Draw the graph 2 sine x, x plus 30. So the x plus 30 means we're going to move to the left by 30. So it means this point will now be here, this point will now be here, this point will now be here, and we can just shift all of these points slightly to the left, and the 2 would mean that we are now stretching it. So rather than having our maximum point at 1, our maximum point would be at 2, and our minimum point would be at -2. All the other points would be stretched by a factor of 2. And this would give us a graph that would look like this, and this here. Perfect. So if we were to complete the square on this, well, remember we'd have to half this number. So we get x minus 3 squared minus 9, because that would be from the 3 squared, plus 10, which would give us x minus 3 squared plus 1. Hence, fully describe the transformation. So if we have an x squared graph, and now we've turned it into an x minus 3 graph, it means we are going to move right by 3 units and up by 1 unit. Or you could say a translation of 3, 1. That would give you the same marks. So it says ABCD is a kite where AB equals AD and CB equals CD. So if we have ABCD, and let's see which ones are the same. So it's AB and AD are the same, and CD and BC are the same. B is a point with the coordinates 10, 19, and D has the coordinates 2, 7. Find an equation of the line AC. So the first thing we want to do is we know that this line here must be halfway between the point B and the point D. So we need to find the midpoint. Now that midpoint is going to be 10 plus 2 over 2 and 19 plus 7 over 2, which would give us the coordinates 6, 13. Now that we have 6, 13, we need to find the gradient of BD. So the gradient BD would be 19 minus 7 over 10 minus 2, which would give us 12 over 8, which would give us 3 over 2. So now AC must be perpendicular because this line would form a right angle. If it is perpendicular, the gradient of AC would equal minus 2 over 3. And we can say y is equal to minus 2 over 3x plus c. We're going to sub in the values for the midpoint, which would give us 13 equals minus 2 over 3 times 6 plus c, which would give us 13 is equal to minus 4 plus c, so c would equal 17. Now it wants it in a different form, so we know straight away that y is equal to minus 2 over 3x plus 17, which then we can times everything by 3, so we get 3y is equal to minus 2x plus 51. And the way it wants it written is we want the x's and the y's on one side. So we get 2x plus 3y is equal to 51. Particle P is moving along a straight line that passes through the fixed point O. The displacement s meters of P from O at time t seconds is given by this. Find the value of t for which the acceleration is 3 meters per second. So remember, to find the velocity, we need to differentiate this. So we get 3t squared minus 12t plus 5. And then to find the acceleration, we would need to differentiate this again. So we get 6t minus 12. And we want it where the acceleration is 3. So we just make it equal 3. So we get 6t is equal to 15. And t would equal 15 divided by 6, which is 2.5 seconds. And that is the end of the paper in less than 1 hour. Remember, you will have a lot more time, so go through and check all your answers. But for now, that is the May 2019 iGCSE Paper 1 Higher Tier paper. Comment below if you have any questions or any other papers you want me to go through.